Hi everyone out there, this is Black and Indigenous American, and I am making this video because unfortunately my father's older sister passed away last week, and she was 89 years old, and of course she was the matriarch, the living matriarch of our family. Um, the oldest son, my father's oldest brother, passed away in the early 90s. My Uncle James. But now daddy's oldest sister passed. So um, I have her obituary here. Let's see. You can see. Oh, here you go. Yep. So that was her obituary, the front of it at least. Um, this is a lot of information, and they had us read it silently during the service, but I knew my aunt had a passion for the Lord and all of that, but I did not realize how much of an impact she had in their neighborhood, in their community. Um, People from all over, I guess, all over the city came to her celebration service and paid their respects. Um, a lot of people look like they just came off the street, like literally, like looked like they came off the street and they came to pay their respects. So I was happy to have been there to celebrate her life and things of that nature. Um, but yeah, she passed away, and again, that made me think a lot about the family genealogy. No, I did not talk to her about our family. However, she shared a lot of information to family members on my father's mother's side of the family. So whenever we have family get-togethers on that side of the family, they already have the information that she shared. So it's not like she didn't share the information, which has definitely helped many of our family members take on this family genealogy stuff. Um, but yeah, so now let's see, my father, who's the youngest out of all of them, his last living brother, he's in his 70s. Um, and then the last sister's living is, let's see, Julia, Aunt Julia, Aunt Jessie, Aunt Alice, Aunt Barbara. And yeah, 5 sisters left. Yeah, 5 sisters. Um, so anyway, for those out there who do have older relatives, I think it's very important to document that, be it with a video cam, voice recording, things like that is relevant. Have things in writing, um, and that will help with the family story, because you really don't want the story to be forgotten. So anyway, I'm going to keep her obituary. It's a ton of information, but more so about her life. She volunteered in a lot of things outside of the 4 walls we call church. She would tell you like it is. If you're in the wrong, she will let you know. But it was from love, and that's one thing about her. She didn't take no mess, but people knew that she genuinely cared for them, and they knew she genuinely loved them. That's what, as Christians, we are called to do, is to genuinely love people, and not just tell them what they want to hear, pretty much. And again, that was evident during her service, celebration service, that she was highly esteemed, I should say. But yeah, definitely family members who are still, young at heart and can remember a lot of the details from their past, yeah, definitely ask those questions, document the responses from that person, keep their obituaries. Keep their obituaries. That way you can keep track of who is related to who and where they lived and things like that. Now, at the beginning of her obituary, it didn't say much about um, her folks, like her parents, which are my grandparents. Um, they named them in the obituary, um, said where she was born and the year she was born, um, said where she was baptized, which actually they have the wrong state. Okay, in the obituary, they have the state of Virginia, but in actuality, this particular church is in the state of North Carolina. However, the first paragraph of her obituary is partly correct because half of the church is over in Virginia, and the other half is over in North Carolina, which is kind of funny, but it's literally half the church. Half the church property is on one side of the state line, and the other half is on the other line. So they got it partially right. It did mention in her obituary, it says she recalled her grandfather's prayers and his frequent reference to the words "for Jesus' sake." So I'm assuming it's my maternal grandmother's father, because we don't know much about our paternal grandfather. Yeah. So I believe when she referenced grandfather, I believe this was in regards to my great grandfather, who was William, Willie Hargrove Sr., because he had a son and he named him Junior. So yeah, but it just had a ton of information on different groups and societies she was part of, getting recognized by the city. Let's see. For instance, the NAACP Certificate of Outstanding Services and Membership campaign, that was in the 70s. Yeah, she really was involved and recognized in so many things. It did also reference in an obituary. It says she was preceded in death by her husband of over 40 years, one sister, Mary, and three brothers, James, Henry, and Leroy. So they also reference her siblings. So again, if you're looking for genealogy, things of that nature, see, this is in writing. I mean, I can also find their information online, like whoever was living in a household, depending on the decade, what the census taker referenced. But it also referenced in her obituary that this one sister and these three brothers died before her. And so I think that could help some people too, if they're trying to keep track of who died first and all of that, especially if they're not living in the same community, same house. You know, everyone just pretty much was dispersed. Like my Aunt Mary, she lived in Connecticut. My Uncle James lived in Southern Virginia. My Uncle Henry and my Uncle Leroy both lived in Baltimore. So, you know, again, I wouldn't overlook obituaries at all. I wouldn't overlook obituaries at all. If anything, definitely keep it so, you know, you can pass that on to the next generation. So that's that. Let's see. I have to kind of laugh a little bit because even though she was well known and well respected in her community, that was a long service. I'm sorry. a long service. Okay, they had the wake. They had the wake that was on Friday afternoon, and then they had a wake Saturday morning, which was the day of the funeral. So the family was there at 9:30 in the morning, and friends and loved ones and things of that nature came to view her body, and obviously the casket is open, and this went on for about an hour, along with music, shouting, and all of this stuff. And when I say shouting, meaning like the people who were singing were like screaming, and the speakers were glaring, and it was just a lot of loud music. And then finally at 10:30 they started the service, and they didn't close the casket until almost at the end of the service. So that's why I didn't understand. It's like, okay, we have a wake so people can view her remains, and then once the service started, you would think they would close the casket and keep it moving. So there was an open casket pretty much most of the funeral service. So I was like, okay. And so the service finally was over, I don't know, 12:15, maybe 12:30. But this is my thing. I understand that other people felt like she was their mother, a spiritual mother. But I'm like, wow, why did it have to take so long? I mean, for real, like, there's a wake for a reason, so people can view the remains and pay their respects. But then after that, why is there another wake on the day of the funeral? This is the first for me. This was the first for me because I've been to my share of funerals, and typically the family will meet at the home of the person that passed away, or let's say their child's house, because she was 89, so we met at her son's home, and we all prayed or whatever, and then the funeral home director or whatever explained how it's going to be, how we should drive and all of this stuff. And then we follow each other to the church. Mind you, the wake is typically not on the same day of the funeral. Then once you get to the church or wherever the funeral is going to be held, it goes on typically for an hour. And typically at the end, the pastor invites, the congregation, those visiting, if they want to, surrender themselves to Christ. And, because obviously you're facing death. We're all facing death. So that's typical. And then after that, they wrap it up. And usually if it's like a church in like rural country, there's a cemetery there. So everyone will go outside after the service, and then they'll say a few more words, and then that's when they will put the casket in the grave, and then everybody kind of like pays their last respect by maybe putting dirt in the grave or putting a flower in the grave, and then everyone walks away, and that's the end of it, right? Nope, not for my Aunt Ruth. This was a long, drawn-out process. She was well loved and respected, but it just seemed like it was just too long. And then finally, her oldest son, he was the one who closed the casket, and you could tell that he was really, really having a hard time, obviously, to close the casket, because that will be the last time he'll see the remains of his mother. In his lifetime. So they're slowly putting the casket down, and then everybody starts crying. And I'm like, can we please close the casket? Please, can we close the casket? Because this is hard, okay? Could we please close the casket? So, and then he finally closed it. And then that's when the people who work for the funeral home actually locked the casket. Meaning ain't no more opening it up. It's sealed. Done. So yeah, it was tough. I think the toughest thing for me, not necessarily for my aunt, because I know that she's exactly where she's supposed to be. She probably been preparing for that forever, for the next transition to the next level, spiritual level. So I wasn't necessarily um, upset about her passing. She lived a long life. But what got me was when her son, her youngest son, and when I say young, he's not a young man. He's like pushing 70. Yeah, he's like pushing 70, I think. So he's 60 something, but he's been in and out of the hospital, and so he was in the hospital when his mom passed, and um he wanted to arrange to actually get to the funeral because he wanted to, see his mom for the last time. And right before service started, everybody turns around, and then there's my cousin, her son, who is being pushed down the aisle in his wheelchair with this thing in his neck to help him breathe, because that's how sick he is. And I could just feel like my eyes watering up, and some family members were getting up, hugging him and kissing him and stuff. And so he finally gets to the casket, and apparently he arranged for my father and my aunt Alice, who are the two youngest out of the group, to help him stand up so he can kiss his mother. And so I found all this out later, like how it was supposed to be, for my cousin, so he can pay his respects. And when my father turned around, his face was bloodshot red, and he just broke down. And that was the first time I ever saw my father break down at a funeral. I mean, obviously, there's 4 siblings that passed, now 5. And this is the first time I saw him break down. But the reason why is because this is his nephew, and he's actually one of his closest nephews. And every time he goes to Baltimore, he always makes sure he's check in on his nephew. So that was a request from my nephew Gene for him to help him up out of the wheelchair. And so anyway, when my father got back to his seat, because he sat 2 rows in front of me, and he just started crying. That was it for me. Because I was really trying to hold on, because I know that this particular cousin, he lived a very rough life, was involved in a lot of things that my aunt did not approve of. And so now in his life, he's, sick, he's a diabetic, and, things like that. So for him to actually make it to his mother's funeral, and in wheelchair and all, he had like a oxygen tank at the back of his wheelchair. He had 2 nurses there on call just in case anything were to happen. And when I saw that really struck me, because I was like, my cousin Gene, he's not here. I know he's in the hospital, but it would have been, I don't know. It just seemed like she was rest in peace if both of her sons were there to pay their respects. So that was rough. That was rough. Yeah, that was rough. And then one of my cousins, she actually put a flower into my aunt's casket right before they closed the caskets, because everyone, they wanted to go up one more time to see her. And so she put this flower, some kind of flower, rose. I really don't know, but it was a special bond that they both had. It was something about this flower. So that was nice. But my thing is, okay, during the service, it seemed like more people who were not relatives did most of the talking, and talking about my aunt, my aunt Ruth. And I was like, you know what? It would have been nice if this was more family, had more family talking than versus other people talking of how great of a person she was. But I was like, I don't know if I like that. I don't know, because to me it just felt like, I don't know. I'm like, she's my aunt, I know that's kind of sad, kind of feeling like, wait a minute now, we the family here, and why everybody else talking? And not just regular people. We talking about people within her church congregation, like people within the church that were members of the church. I'm like, I would like to hear more people that she was able to help that maybe they're members of the church, but they're not like deaconess or the pastor, whatever, just regular folk. And it was like, I don't know, that right there kind of, I don't know. I think that's why it took so long, because there was some long-winded people, and this seemed like most of the people in this congregation were old too, so they got all day to talk. But anyway, I know I done went on and on and on about this particular service, but other than that, my point of this video was to, for those who didn't know, please keep your family members' obituaries. And I've started doing that. Like when my uncle Herbert had passed. Again, he's the uncle who married into the family. He passed, I think, 2 years ago. So I kept his obituary. I kept my cousin Kia's obituary. She died when she was 32. She died of lupus complications. So I kept her obituary. I wasn't able to go to another aunt's funeral this past year, but I'm sure Daddy has her obituary, and I can make a copy of it. She married into the family, just so you know. So it'll probably be more about her side of the family, versus my straight line in my family, because that's really what I care about, my straight lineage, not people that married into the family. But whatever. So, yeah, that's about it. I really didn't have much to say. I just wanted to share my experience with that particular service. Personally, when my time comes where I need to cross over and go to another level of spirituality or whatever, I would prefer to be cremated, personally. I don't know. To me, it just seemed like the person's spirit is no longer there. It's their remains. It's their shell. It's like they turned into a butterfly and they flew away. And so I don't think it should be so much effort put into the actual remains of the person. Because, again, I believe once they shut their eyes, they're with the Lord or wherever, right? They're no longer in that shell. They're gone. So, anyway, that's all I have to say. Cherish your family, people. Keep your obituaries. For those who are very much interested in keeping the family history intact and organized. And love life. That's pretty much what I would recommend. Love life. Love your family. Love others. Be blessed. Bye-bye.